Hello guys, welcome back to another video. FPL Coach, also known as Coach Indy. Today's video is Game Week 11 review. We touch on how many points I score, what rank I am now, and what preparations I've made, and early thoughts to Game Week 12. We look at some injury news and suspensions that have occurred over the last sort of Game Week 11, and maybe leading into that might affect our transfers going forward. And then we also look at my transfer thoughts ahead of Game Week 12. So without further ado, let's just dive into the video. Okay, let's just dive into my Game Week 11 review. I've scored a whopping 75 points, which I'm super happy about. In fact, I'm ecstatic by it. My rank has climbed up to 14,387, which is a season high for the 21-22 season. I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, my rank's pretty much halved or more, or better, should I say, the last 3 or 4 weeks, which I'm really happy about. Yes, so overall points are 764. Just running through the team. I played a 1-4-4-2 formation. Ramsdale in goal, picked up a clean sheet at home to Watford in the 1-0 win, and also picked up a bonus point. Cancelo picked up 14 points in the Manchester derby. Now, I did think Man City would concede, but they didn't. They kept a clean sheet. The reason why I did play Cancelo was actually I thought he'd get an assist or a goal, and he turned out to get 2 assists, bonus points, and obviously got the clean sheet as well. So really happy with that from an FPL point of view. Obviously from a Manchester United fan point of view, less happy. Trent picked up 12 points, got a goal and an assist in their 3-2 defeat to West Ham. So yeah, fantastic to have him pick up those, well, goal. He normally doesn't pick up that many goals, but yeah, fantastic to pick up the goal, and obviously the assists sort of keep happening quite regularly. So yeah, quite happy with that. James picked up 7 points. It could have been a lot more. He had obviously created a couple of other chances as well, which on another day players would have converted those, and also Burnley didn't really create too much, but they obviously scored the 1 goal, and the clean sheet was wiped out there as well. So he did pick up 7 points. He did get an assist. I think he got 1 bonus point as well. Ben Chilwell was my transfer in this week. I did it for Diaz, so I missed out on Diaz's clean sheet, but it was kind of like a short-term punt on Ben Chilwell, obviously on the back of Alonso being injured. Obviously lost a clean sheet, 2 points. I think he'll carry on playing for the next couple of weeks as well, just because I think Alonso's injury will be sort of short to mid-term, if you like, so he could miss the next month or so. Hamstring injury, don't want to rush him back too soon. Moving into the midfield, Phil Foden picked up 3 points. There's a couple of blanks in a row, but no alarm bells there. He did play really well. He did have a good chance, a 1v1, which he just kind of, it's unlike Phil Foden. He normally kind of makes them quite clean in terms of his strikes, but he kind of scuffed it semi and clipped the outside of the post. But again, not to worry. Rafinha picked up 9 points. He scored another goal, got some bonus points as well for me. Really happy actually to keep Rafinha over the last sort of 3-4 weeks. He's picked up some good points for me, which I'm really happy about. Mo Salah picked up an assist for the Trent goal. Obviously my captain this week as well. So didn't pick up loads of points, but again, another 10 points for me. We keep moving. Smith Rowe picked up 8 points. He was the one who scored the Arsenal goal in the 1-0 win. Didn't pick up any bonus points, but still picked up the midfield clean sheet point as well. So really happy with him. Moving into the strikers then, Antonio was actually on my bench. So I started with Tony and Jimenez up top. Tony picked up 1 point. He actually picked up a yellow card in the defeat at home to Norwich, in a shock defeat in some people's eyes. I think a lot of people in the FPL community would have said that this is a game that Tony would have exploded and maybe scored 1 or 2 or got some big points. But it wasn't to be. A little bit concerning at the moment, because obviously a lot of people would have brought in Tony ahead of this sort of run of games. In the first sort of 2 or 3 of them, he hasn't really contributed significantly in terms of FPL points. But you've got to keep the faith, because the run is still quite nice in the next sort of 2 or 3. And then Jimenez picked up 2 points as well, so nothing to report back there. And on my bench, I had Ben Foster picked up 11 points. He obviously had the penalty save from Aubameyang. He obviously picked up bonus points and save points, so 11 points from him. Antonio 2 on the bench, and nothing in terms of attacking output there for him. Livramento picked up the clean sheet in the 1-0 win to Aston Villa. And at that stage there, I was thinking to myself, right, what 2 players do I want to miss out for Antonio and Livramento to come in? But it's worked out. I picked up 75 points for the game week. And then Brownhill picked up 1. So that's 20 points on my bench. And I worked out that's about 70 points, the thick end of 70 points on my bench the last 3 game weeks. Now, if I had all those 70 points, I know you wouldn't have actually all those 70 points, because some players that did actually start would have to come out, so you lose those points. But say I did have those 70 points, that would put me in the top 100 in the world if I did have those. And say on the conservative side I had half those points, so say 35, that would put me around the 1k mark. So you know, it could have been a whole lot better. And I've been absolutely ecstatic to be in that position. But I'm still really satisfied to be 14,387. Overall points of 764, 75 points for the game week. Obviously had the one transfer this week, Chilwell in for Diaz out. I've only made 8 transfers for the season. I've taken no hits, which is I'm quite pleased with so far. Squad value is 103.8 million, and I've actually got 3.8 million in the bank. And we'll talk about what I'm going to do with that 3.8 million later on. Moving on to injury news itself then. So Varane obviously picked up the hamstring injury for Manchester United in the away game at Atlanta in the Champions League last week. Now obviously Manchester United at the moment are not much of an asset in terms of FPL anyway. But certainly in terms of defensive assets, maybe a bit of a different case with the likes of Ronaldo and Bruno and Rashford, etc. But what I will say is he's obviously pulled his hamstring. He's going to be out for about a month. Manchester United have confirmed that. Next 3 games are Watford away, Chelsea away, and then Arsenal at home. So very much a mixed bag. Certainly the last 2, both teams are in very good form. After that, United's fixtures do change. But what I will say is I think you've got to wait until Varane's fit, because Manchester United's defence will obviously improve when he plays. The likes of Luke Shaw, even Varane himself, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, they become more of an asset. So certainly if you're looking to bring in Manchester United players, definitely wait. If you've still got those players, get rid, because United at the moment look quite abysmal defensively. And obviously the other thing to sort of just mention, and it's a bit of a factor as well, is Ollie's the manager at the moment. Will he be the manager in 2, 3, 4 weeks' time? A new manager comes in. He or she might have different personnel favourable. For example, Bailly might become a bit more of a first team defender, for example. So there's lots of things to wait there. I think it's just to wait and see, wait for Varane to get fit and then sort of make a judgment there. Marcos Alonso, he picked up an ankle injury in the Champions League game as well. Tuchel described it as the stress is too high on the ankle, nothing big. That obviously ruled him out for the Burnley game. Chelsea's next 3 games are Leicester away, Man United at home, Watford away. So another mixed bag. Obviously, he's going to miss another 1 or 2 weeks potentially. Then obviously Chilwell is just a sideways move and it's nice and comfortable. But obviously, if he is fit, then you've got to bear that in mind. And what do you do? Do you go to Manchester City? Do you go to Liverpool, for example? You just got to bear that in mind. If you have got him, what do you do? I suggest probably wait until the international breaks finish and wait for those press conferences leading up to game week 12. And the last one to mention is Ogbonna at West Ham. He's been quite integral to the partnership he's built with Kurt Zouma, and not just those 2, but the whole back 4 and the goalkeeper, the whole team really. So he picked up a couple of knocks in the last game against Liverpool. He had a bit of a head injury, which received an elbow in the face from Jota, and also had a bit of a leg collision as well with another player as well. Can't think who it was off the top of my head. He eventually got subbed off. We don't know obviously the indication of how long he's going to be out for. All that kind of thing as well. So we've got to just bear that in mind. If he is out long term, does that make West Ham assets a bit more less appealing? Does that mean the likes of Dawson becomes more appealing from set pieces? Obviously, he's a massive threat. West Ham a massive threat and unbelievable from set pieces, not just this season but in previous seasons as well, especially under David Moyes. The next few games we've got Wolves away, Manchester City away, and then Brighton at home. So again, another mixed bag. I would probably just wait again until the press conferences and see what's been said from David Moyes. Okay, so let's just look ahead at some possible replacements for the likes of Varane, Alonso, Ogbonna, etc. So Varane's valued at 5.5 million and Alonso at 5.6. I've highlighted these 2 because they've obviously got bigger ownership than Ogbonna. I don't think he'd have much of an ownership at all. So if you did have these, and obviously think about their price points, and you haven't got much in the bank, or if you've got very little in the bank, here's a couple of suggestions of who you could go for. So Ben Chilwell is an obvious target to go for. Chelsea's fixtures are fantastic going forward. And obviously the team's doing well. His attacking output is fantastic. He's spoken to the team. He seems like a first team player at the moment. He's valued at £6 million. So that could be a straight swap from Alonso to Chilwell if you've got the 0.4 million in the bank. Obviously, again, with Varane, if you want to make that move, you need 0.5 million in the bank. Conte coming in at Spurs is an interesting one. So I put down both wing backs here, Reguilon and Emerson Royale. Reguilon is valued at 5 million. Royale is valued at 4.9. Both valued a lot cheaper than Chilwell. Obviously, it might take a bit of time for Conte to find his feet in terms of coaching the players and making sure they defensively look very strong and hard to break down, and all the players understand the system and where they should be in and out of possession, etc. But if you do want to take a bit of a punt on them, I think that's a good choice. Obviously, the clean sheet the weekend away at Everton at Goodison Park, that's a good start. Obviously, I didn't see how the game went, so I don't know if they got lucky or if it was just a solid performance or a mixture of both. I don't know. But those players I think are pretty much on everyone's radar. There might just be a wait and see over the next sort of coming weeks. And the last one to sort of mention is Tariq Lamptey. Now he's had a torrid sort of the last year or so. Really, sort of picked up hamstring injuries, come back, and not really had the same period of being fit. And I think the last months to 6 weeks he's kind of been fit, and he's had 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there. Started the last game and looked quite threatening. He's valued at 4.4 million. So if you did have the likes of Varane or Alonso and you wanted to save some money, Lamptey could be the way forward. Obviously Brighton defensively look very, very good. He plays as a right wing back as well. Obviously getting far up the pitch, his heat maps will be quite strong on the right hand side, and obviously can produce some attacking output there as well, whether it be goals, assists, pre-assists, etc. So if you wanted to save some money, Lamptey could be the way forward. If you really wanted to be aggressive, I think Chilwell could be the smart play as well. Okay, so looking at my early thoughts for game week 12 in terms of transfers in and transfers out, I have got 2 free transfers going into game week 12. My initial thought is to just use 1, but I might use 2. So I'm leaning towards what you can see in front of you at the moment. So this will leave me 0.4 million in the bank. It is Antonio out, Lukaku in. Now, there's lots of variables to think about here. Lukaku, as it stands right now, isn't fit. Now, if Tuchel does come out and say in the press conference lead up to game week 12 that he is fit, for me, he's more of an asset than Harry Kane. Not necessarily because of the fixtures, although the fixtures are reasonable. He could score in all those. And granted, Kane has got better fixtures, but I just feel like Lukaku is more robust. Granted, he's injured at the moment. That was quite a nasty injury. But generally speaking, fatigue and injuries and stuff, he doesn't really get. He's proven that in the Premier League, Serie A, and at international level as well. He can play a lot of games in a short period of time, and also the team for me is a lot better. He will get more goals and more assists, and the players that can support him and contribute and assist him and pre-assist him. There's more players that can help him in that sense. The likes of the two wing backs, and then you've got the 2 double tens as well that can sort of support as well, and they can rotate them. They've got lots of different types of players who can help Lukaku. So for me, this is where I'm kind of leaning. Antonio out's an interesting one. Now I tweeted about this maybe yesterday, I think it was. I worked out Antonio could end up playing 12 games for club and country in 43 days. Now that is just a no-go, given that the hamstring injuries and the record that Antonio has. He's got 2 games for Jamaica in the international break. West Ham are still in the Europa League. They've got 2 games to play this side of Christmas. They've still got their League Cup game to play as well, away to Spurs. And then they've obviously got 6 or 7 Premier League games. This is all just before Christmas as well. So that's 12 games he's potentially playing. There's no way he's playing all them games. Now, there's potential that if West Ham qualify in the next game, in their 5th game, then he doesn't play in the 6th game. Okay, that's 1 rest. But he's definitely going to be playing the 2 games for Jamaica. The League Cup semi-finals are a good opportunity to get to a semi-final in the Cup. So he'd probably play that game, and it's obviously a London derby. So there's other games in the league I think he's going to miss out on. I just don't think he can play every single game. So if he misses out, say, in the 6th game of the Europa League, even 11 games for me is too much for Antonio, given his record in terms of his hamstring injuries. There's going to be rotation. There's no way he's playing all them games. And if he does, he's going to pull a hamstring, in my opinion. I worked out that it's something like 12 games in 43 days, which is a game every 3.58 days. That's way too many. And then beyond Christmas Day, so i.e. from Boxing Day onwards till the 1st of January, New Year's Day, there's another 4 games West Ham have got to play in the league during that period. So that works out as 16 games in 50 days, which is a game every like 3.1 days, which is ridiculous. Like, he's not going to play them games. And granted, West Ham's fixtures do turn and they do get better in sort of 3-4 game weeks time, and that's when people are thinking about bringing them in. But I think there's going to be heavy rotation, especially with Antonio. He's 32 now. I know he's a lot fitter. He's worked on his fit. He's changed his diet by all accounts as well to stop them hamstring injuries, or to try and help them hamstring injuries from happening in the future. But I just can't see him playing all them games. So for me, this is a really, really interesting one. I feel like I can try and get off him now while you've got a bit of a difficult run. Obviously, Man City away is obviously never easy. Brighton and Wolves are in decent form as well. So maybe get rid of him now and try and jump on Lukaku while his price is sort of dropping at the moment. So that is kind of option number 1. Okay, looking ahead to option number 2, and here where I've got 2 free transfers if I decide to go down this route. Now, something I didn't mention in option number 1, Antonio out for Harry Kane. Now, I can't actually afford that in one transfer. That's why I kind of leaning towards bringing in Romelu Lukaku. Obviously, again, depending on injury news, etc. If Lukaku isn't fit, and he needs another week or two, then maybe I'd do this one here. So I'd take out Antonio still and bring in Harry Kane, target the fixtures, try and jump on him at the appropriate time, and hope obviously his form turns. Hopefully maybe gets 1 or 2 goals during the international break and try and regain some of that confidence back. The second transfer will be Rafinha out reluctantly, and then just bringing in some bench fodder, which is James McArthur. This will leave me 1.8 million in the bank, and that gives me a bit of flexibility elsewhere. For example, if I do want to jump on maybe a Manchester United midfielder later on when the form does change, someone like maybe a Marcus Rashford, I could upgrade maybe a Smith Rowe, I could upgrade a Phil Foden, for example, someone like that, a Mason Greenwood. Just depends on how Manchester United's form sort of changes over the next 3 to 4, whether I jump on at that period there after, say, the 4th game. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Equally, like I said, I could just make it 1 transfer and then have a look at the following week and make 2 transfers. And no doubt there is things that could happen over the international break. You know, people get COVID, stuck in different countries, all that kind of thing, injuries. You know, there's lots of things that could happen. So you've got to be open. I think it's a smart play having 2 free transfers. It saves you having the hit. Obviously, you still might have to take a hit potentially if you have 3 or 4, players out. Then you might have to make some big hits there potentially. So it could still happen either way. But having 2 free ones, I think that's a smart play. Okay, let's have a look at Game Week 12 preview. So in front of you can see I've made 2 free transfers. Now, this is obviously all dependent on Lukaku being fit, etc. The reason why I've sort of chosen this is because I know Kane and McArthur, are both fit at the moment. That's kind of why I've decided to sort of line it up like this. So formation-wise, I'm going to play a 1-5-2-3. 5 at the back is very, very unusual and very uncommon, especially in FPL. But I just feel like the fixtures for these players this week can benefit me more so. So Ramsdale in goal. I mean, it could be Ben Foster. I just feel like even though Manchester United's form, obviously they're playing Watford this time around, isn't great, but they still could score 2-3 goals in any game week. I think Ramsdale, they've shored up a lot more defensively. I'm not to say they're going to win the game, Arsenal at all, but there's potential save points there for Ramsdale. So just leaning towards him slightly. Cancelo, Trent, James, Chilwell, and also Livramento as a back 5. Now, the reason why I said Livramento as it stands right now is because they're obviously playing Norwich away. But if they're having someone like a Frank Lampard that comes in and know what type of football they play, then Livramento might come out and someone like Smith Rowe might go in. So it just does depend on if there's a managerial appointment made. They might have a caretaker manager. In that case, I'll probably keep Livramento in. 2 in midfield, Foden and Salah. Salah will probably be my vice captain this week if I do obviously make the transfers I've just mentioned there. Both got tricky-ish fixtures. Obviously, Foden, does he play 2 games for England midweek? We don't know. If he does play considerable minutes, and there's also a bit of rotation risk potentially, you've got to bear in mind that Man City, their second game back after the international break, will be a Champions League game. I think they might be playing PSG. Don't quote me on that. So you might think about resting maybe 1 or 2 players in that Everton game. Mo Salah's Mo Salah. He's going to contribute whatever game he's playing, whoever he plays against. You would think in terms of the form he's in. Tony against Newcastle, obviously that's his old club as well. This is kind of where he's made his debut. Ivan Toney back in the day, sort of 7-8 years ago. So maybe a bit of extra motivation there. Having said that, it's Eddie Howe's first game as Newcastle manager. Will there be gung-ho? Will there be spaces for Brentford to exploit? Potentially. That's why I'm kind of keeping him in there. Jimenez is an interesting one as well. Now, there's been loads of comments from Bruno Lage and also the Mexico manager about managing his minutes when he does go on international break and when he comes back, just not to give him too much of a load. The last international break, the first game back for Wolves, he didn't play. He came on and played maybe a few minutes. Potentially that could happen again with Mexico. If he does play maybe 2 full games or starts both games and gets considerable minutes, he might get rested or come off the bench in this game against West Ham. So just got to watch that space with that one there. Again, he could come out. Smith Rowe could come in. Smith Rowe's obviously been called up to the England squad, which we'll touch on a little bit later on. And Harry Kane will be my captain. Leeds, they're conceding goals. It's just been stupid not to sort of target him. I know obviously Harry Kane's form isn't great, and that's why I mentioned earlier about his form potentially. If he gets a goal or 2 for England, that could sway me to be the captain choice for game week 12. On the bench, Foster at home to Manchester United. Smith Rowe quite easily could come in for Livramento, could come in for Jimenez potentially. Obviously, he's been called up for England. The likes of Rashford hasn't gone, and there's been 1 or 2 others like Ward-Prowse, for example. So fair play to Smith Rowe. He's done really, really well and deserves that call up. And then obviously McArthur and Brownhill on the bench as well. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards for game week 12. Captaincy could quite easily change. If Harry Kane, he doesn't do well, I'm not fancying Spurs maybe, then I'll just give it to Mo Salah, and then maybe Lukaku comes in, and it just depends on the injury news, etc. So that's kind of where I'm kind of initially leaning towards for game week 12. There you have it, guys. That is another FPL video in the bag for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you found it insightful and maybe gained something from it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Antonio situation. Is that too many games for him in too much of a short period? Drop them in the comments below. Also, if you haven't followed our channel on YouTube or on Twitter or on Instagram, the handles are in front of you. Please do go and give them a follow. Massively appreciate your support. It does mean massive amounts to us. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create loads of FPL content for you guys. There's going to be some coaching points from coach's point of view in terms of Premier League players going forward in the next week or two as well. So check that out as well. Subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and we'll see everyone next time.